Okay. First up on the agenda is rescheduling of the public hearing for the fiscal year 2023-2024 general operating budget, water pollution control department fund operating budget, and the community pool fund operating budget. Basically necessitated, but I figured we needed to discuss the dates in person rather than sharing a lot of emails. We might be able to get it all taken care of. The proposed date was the 21st, is that correct?
I think it was the 23rd. I think it was
23rd.
Thursday.
Yeah.
23rd, okay. Can everyone attend?
No, that was the old date, the 23rd, which
The 20 okay.
you and I were unable to attend. And
Okay,
so
fine.
we were asking if we could change it to, the motion shows Wednesday, the 22nd.
Yeah.
Or the
Okay.
21st you could do, but the 22nd is preferred.
The 22nd is preferred?
I can do the 22nd.
I'm okay.
Yep, 22nd works for me.
Stop.
Okay,
Okay, I'll be just receiving your best wishes because I will be surgically incapable of attending.
Oh,
So
Oh.
I'm going to be out for a couple of meetings. I just want to mention it. They're taking care of my other knee. It's not a problem, but just can't make that meeting for sure. So
could you make it on the 21st, Tim? Or is when?
I'm actually, my surgery's on the 20th. So
Oh, yeah. So
It's-
either date isn't going to work.
yeah,
So-
they're not going to work either one.
Okay.
No, I already knew that. So I don't count. So, but as long as everybody else can, that's what most important. So we could properly notice that and we're all set then. It'll be
can I
the
ask
need
a
a
20
quick
motion.
question?
Sure.
Can I ask a quick question? When you're changing the public hearing from the 23rd to the 22nd is fine, we need an action, but are you changing all of the budget presentations as well, I'm assuming, for that night?
It would be
Yes,
better
okay.
if we were to do that, yeah.
Yep.
Then we're only out those 2 nights.
Yeah, they haven't made it yet.
So we have no meeting on the 23rd at all then? Is
Correct.
that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Would be the resolution, but it's the.
So it is the 22nd.
Hmm.
Okay. So the motion would be to change the public hearing for FY 2023 as all that stuff indicated in the agenda to the 22nd and the time to be 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Okay. We have a resolution moved and seconded. I didn't hear the second.
Second.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So we're all covered then. All those in favor signify.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I knew we'd get it done. Okay, really the heart of our meeting, and welcome Ryan to our meeting. And our town public engineer there, Mr. Gary Thurstonberg, good to see you on board. We are here to discuss the Bartlam Park South Phase 1 project contract. As you know, we have to award a bid and there's some conversation to be had about that topic. Some of us are aware because we attended a meeting prior to this meeting. Where do we start? Sean, maybe you can introduce the whole topic in general.
Sure.
And we'll follow on with the other experts.
perfect. All right, happy to do it. Can you hear me okay? Just make sure my
Mhm.
microphone's working. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, first of all, I think this is a really exciting, momentous occasion here as we've advanced along this project for the last 3 years. As you indicated, we do have Ryan Chmielewski from Weston and Sampson, who's been walking this path with us again over 3 years of design and planning through referendum. And now we're at a position where we've gone out to bid. We received a number of responses. We had 8 bids responded to for the construction services. Tonight we have a recommendation that we award to the lowest qualified bidder, which is Dorita and Sons Construction. There is a resolution there, which again, we'll read when we get to the point if you'd prefer, and I can just kind of give you the background as to where we are now. Again, this is, really a long time coming, and we appreciate everyone having this meeting now as we're ready to hit the ground running soon. So I think what I wanted to do is kind of cover, if you're okay, Mr. Chairman, just sort of where we are with the budget and why we're recommending. Really, the biggest decision is to award
Yeah.
the overall project and also the alternate, which is the vertical
Yeah, I
components.
think
of
that's
the
at
band
the
shell.
heart of this anyway, Sean. So yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Give us the best you got.
Great. All right. Let me just share my screen then. So bear with me 1 second. Here we go. And I know this was in your packet, so you can follow along if you have it there too. But it's a very simplified version of the overall project budget, but just kind of so remind everyone where we are and where we started. The capital appropriation approved by the voters was the $7.9 million. Can everyone see that okay?
Mhm.
Give a thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Here. Last year in the adopted state budget, if you recall, the state saw fit to award Cheshire a $250,000 grant as part of the adopted budget in additional federal money passed through the state. That brings our total current project funding to this $8.15 million. You'll also recall that we've been in conversations with the state trying to recognizing before we went to bid, and again, thanks to Weston and Sampson for their great job trying to estimate the expected costs of the project that they designed. We knew and expected we were probably about anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000. We estimate about $400,000 short of what we would need, assuming a healthy contingency and also dollars for construction administration services. So knowing that, we bid the vertical element of the band shell as an alternate, so that we could proceed with the project in the event we didn't have the funding or the bids came in higher. Again, I'm very happy to report that the way the bids came in and with this recommended award to Dorita, you'll see here below the design fee that Weston and Sampson was paid of $520,000. The base bid that Dorita submitted is $6.34 million. And that alternate component, the band shell, is $886,000, which we feel is a very good price for what we were looking for there. You'll see that if you have a contingency for those two items of 5%, which I'll kind of revisit in a minute, that would come to an additional $361,000, again, that we hope we don't have to spend, but that's kind of that buffer contingency should something come up during the project. And then an estimate we have here for construction oversight. We are not under contract yet. We are still in discussions with Weston and Sampson for construction oversight services. You'll recall that that was bid separately from their design when we awarded to them back a year ago. So all in, you'll see that as expected, we're about $300,000 to $400,000, in this case, $320,000 short of what we're looking for our estimates for the project. And again, should that be closed by the state, if they're able to give us the grant funding that we've been seeking, that would kind of take care of all of the issues here before you. But what we have as a proposal for tonight, what our recommendation is to award both the main base bid project as well as the ad alternate, because we have existing funding, again, absent the contingency. If I just quickly close that out there, we have available funding at present with our expected costs. If the council is comfortable knowing that kind of best case scenario, this gap funding is supplied by the state as we expect it will be. Should that not materialize, I guess best case scenario is we don't need the contingency, right? Everything comes in on budget. There's no surprises and it's a moot point. But then either way, when we've had conversations to confirm with our bond counsel, Finance Director Jim Jascott and I did, that if the council's comfortable proceeding, that we can use the available balance of ARPA dollars that we have. You'll recall we have about $2.85 million available in unallocated ARPA funding. If we rely on that as a potential contingency, if you will, that allows us to move forward comfortably as sort of the backup to that backup plan, right? So we're still going to pursue whether it's state funding or again, hopefully not needing a contingency, but this kind of provides us an option without having to go back out to referendum again and increase the overall budget. So maybe I'll just stop there for any questions and I'll stop sharing. I'm happy to share it again. But that's really the overall budget wise. And then if there's any questions on the bidding and the scope review with Dorita, we have both Attorney D'Onofrio here, as well as Ryan from Weston and Sampson. So happy to turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, basically, the heart of it is there's really a few options we have to entertain here, Sean, correct? We're eating the contingency and still spending a little extra money. Or we're acknowledging that that would be perhaps unwise, because who's not going to have a contingency probably in a project of this scale. And the next option is to use ARP funds, or to rely on the generosity of the state, which we just can't count upon since we don't have it in hand. So that's essentially what this win-win package is all about, sort of the issues as I understand it, correct?
I think so. And I think, the other piece that's worth noting is that while we did bid the band shell as an alternate, for a variety of reasons. Oh, sorry, I see Dave Borowey in the waiting room here. Oh, I swear he was just here. Maybe he went off. Hold on. I'm admitting him back in. Sorry, multitasking here. All right, there he's coming back in now. What I was saying was the band shell, it's not preferable. While we did bid it as an alternate, clearly in a perfect world, you'd be awarding that part of the project to the same contractor, right? So there's no disputes over whether it lines up with the base that's built for the vertical element of the band shell. Clearly, driving construction equipment on, if the funding wasn't to materialize for another year or two, you don't want to be tearing up, the property that you've just done all the site work and finished product on the overall base bid of the project. So it's always been preferable that we have them at the same time. But again, as we saw pricing estimates, again, thanks to the good work of our design engineers, we had pretty accurate estimates for what this was going to cost, and the bids really reflected that. So again, it would be our recommendation to proceed with both. And I think ARPA gives us this kind of unique flexibility to kind of cover that contingency. And again, we're going to pursue, and we have a lot of indications that we will be successful with a state funding request. But if that doesn't materialize until May or June, we don't want to hold this project up. We're ready to start construction ASAP.
Any questions? Any concerns? Okay, is it too early? I know we discussed this before any motion was read into the record, but I kind of thought it might be helpful. Is it then that I asked someone to move the resolution 030723 regarding the Bartlett bid? Are you ready for that? And then any further discussion we can go ahead and do? Okay. So, Mr. Mylone, would you be good enough to read that in?
Sure, I'd be happy to read that in, Tim. Be it resolved that the town council approves resolution number 030723-2. Be it resolved that the town council awards the Bartlett Park South Phase 1 project to the lowest qualified bidder, DeRita and Sons Construction Company, Inc., for construction services for the base amount of $6,341,700, with the addition of add alternate 1A band shell in the amount of $886,000. And the town manager is further authorized to execute the contract pursuant to this award and the town's bid documents upon the approval by the town attorney as to form and legal sufficiency.
Second.
Thank you for that. So we've got a motion, we've got a second, and we've really had an important conversation because it's really not stated well or that in-depthly in that motion. So, but if there's any other questions, they should be asked. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I did want to make one brief comment because I had talked to John earlier about, and I looked over, this company has done a number of projects throughout this state. Just want to let the people of our town know, this is somebody who has a lot of experience and knowledge in doing a project of this magnitude, and I think it was a very good choice based on the price and the number of projects they have done. Many turf fields they have done, and similar parts of fields, walkways and things like that. So So I do think it was a good choice, and I fully support, this company being the designated contractor for the new Bartlett Park.
Mr. Veliver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sean and or Jeff, do we have to discuss the issue of the bidders at this point, or do we, how we got to Dorita?
I think that would be a good idea.
All right. So I guess Jeff, do you want to, Tim, it's up to you, but I guess probably whether Jeff's the person to lead that discussion since he did some of the research
Yeah,
on that.
I think that's excellent, David. Thank you for bringing that up because Jeff did have a reason for disqualifying bidder one. So I think that came out in our initial conversation that I had with you last meeting. So yeah, Jeff, if you could really just lay that out for everybody so there's a full understanding as to why bidder one was excused or not qualified, so to speak, and we're here with bidder two that we're happy with.
Absolutely. Thank you. So the town's obligation is to award a contract to the lowest responsible qualified bidder. So that's three different terms. Lowest, we all know, is simply a mathematical calculation. So we started with the lowest base bid of $5,999,075 by Pioneer Builders of Newington. And when I was asked by the town to review whether or not the apparent low bidder was also the lowest responsible qualified bidder, I looked at its bid as well as some other information that I'll address in a moment. In terms of its responsibility, I found that Pioneer is likely responsible. They provided the requisite information concerning payment and performance bonds and insurances. They're a corporation in good standing. They're not in bankruptcy. However, based on my review of Pioneer's bid and my additional research, I found that Pioneer was not the lowest responsible qualified bidder because I found that they lacked the qualifications to successfully perform the work. As you know, most of the scope of the work for this project consists of site work. If you just look at the bid form, you see site preparation, earthwork, construction of a synthetic field, site improvements, site utilities, and irrigation, sports lighting, and paving make up the probably 90% plus of the scope. In the town's invitation to bid, the town makes clear that the project will be awarded to the lowest responsible qualified bidder, that bidders' experience and other relevant criteria will be considered by the town, and that the federal uniform guidance procurement standards apply to the procurement. If you recall, the council some time ago adopted the federal uniform guidance procurement standards as the town's purchasing policy for projects involving federal funds. And under the FUGPS, the town can only award to qualified contractors that possess the ability to successfully perform the work. Bidders were required to complete and provide with their bid a statement of references. In its bid, Pioneer provided a list of current projects and a list of completed projects. The information Pioneer provided does not support a conclusion that Pioneer has sufficient, quite frankly, any experience with projects of this scope and size. Also in its bid, Pioneer submitted a Department of Administrative Services construction contractor pre-qualification program certificate. That pre-qualification certificate told me three things. Number one, that it was expired as of February 15, 2023. Number two, that it had a single limit pre-authorization level of 8 million. And number three, what the classifications were. Site work is not one of the classifications for which Pioneer is pre-qualified by the Department of Administrative Services. I then went on the DAS contracting portal. I found the current, as of February 15, 2023, pre-qualification certificate for this bidder, and I saw that their single project limit had been reduced from 8 million to 6 million, which ordinarily, if you see a bid for a number like $5,999,075, there's some magic to that $6 million threshold. Either the bidder thinks that that's the town's estimate and they want to come in just below, or in this case, they had a pre-qualification issue because their limit for the effective period was 6 million. But again, they're not pre-qualified as a site contractor. They are pre-qualified in a number of other areas. So, given those facts, it was my opinion that Pioneer was not qualified to perform this project and shouldn't be deemed the lowest responsible qualified bidder. I then went and performed the exact same review of the next lowest bidder, Dorita and Sons Construction's bid, and found that they're a pre-qualified site work contractor with DAS, that they have several projects that are very similar in scope and size to this project, and that they are responsible, and therefore found them to be, from a legal perspective, the lowest responsible qualified bidder. Thank
Well,
you.
that's a very important explanation we all needed to hear. So that probably makes plain where we got from lowest to most responsible lowest. Okay. John.
And before we do vote, I did want to make a couple of statements, if that's okay, and I can hold them.
Absolutely.
I did want to compliment this entire team, both from the council, from the consultant, and from the town staff. And this was really a very cooperative effort and a productive effort. Everyone brought something of value to the table here. It was a pleasure to sit on this committee with Peter and David. Both were highly engaged in the entire process. Of course, Ryan and his team did a great job and responded to everything we asked of them. And you could see that in the result from the bids, which are not only probably as good as we could expect in this environment, but also fairly close. And so that shows that the work was done well. Sean did a great job leading the process from the town's perspective, and John Golick and Mike Glidden and Gary at the end, who came in at the end, was really instrumental in helping us resolve the OSTA issue. So it really was a very, very cooperative effort. Everybody brought something of value to the process, and the end result is a positive one for the community. And I appreciate the opportunity to have served on this committee. It's been very, very, very exciting.
John, I appreciate those comments, and I know you shared them at the last meeting of the subcommittee, if you will. And I could certainly do no better, and I appreciate that. And I'm happy that it was such a good effort. And I think it was demonstrated through each of your reports at our regular meetings as well. So I will share your thanks. And I guess at this stage, we'll call for a vote on the motion before us. All those in favor specify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? No noes to be heard. So that looks like a unanimous vote of the entire council. We're really, really looking forward to this project. Ryan and all the other public town staff that are going to be obviously involved. And Jeff, I know along the way you provide tremendous help in the background. And I know we're looking forward to seeing those earth movers in about 3 weeks in whatever form that starts out. I understand that's sort of what we could anticipate. But I know too, the project is not a real wrap up until late fall, correct? If I'm wrong, I believe that's the case. So I guess.
Yeah, about an 18-month expected. We're hoping it'll be a little shorter, but about an 18-month construction window, late fall next year.
Okay. Mr. Veliver?
Yeah, just a quick question, Sean. Question. As this goes forward, I know obviously the south side of the park, even the existing park, is going to be affected by this construction. When do you see that, some of the south side of existing Bartlam Park being impacted by this construction?
Yeah, so it's all going to kind of depend on how quickly they're able to mobilize. And again, knowing every week counted, that's why we wanted to have this meeting today instead of waiting until next week. But yeah, I think the first thing you'll probably see once they've, lined up all their subs and obviously the contracts are signed and everything, is, the construction fencing going up, which, as you said, kind of along the south side of the entry drive to Bartlam Park is where you'll see it, past the gravel lot there, kind of bending around the skate park area, and that first softball field closest to Route 10 should still be usable, but with construction fencing kind of out towards the outfield, if you will. But again, I mean, they'll need to get there and evaluate where and when all that is installed. But as Mr. Slocum said, we expect, within the month, if they're able to move quickly. We did confirm, that their schedule, is open for this project, and this is going to be their major project for the foreseeable future. So that this isn't like they're taking on a bunch of different things at once. They throw themselves into this whole project. So we're excited to see them hit the ground running. And I think within a month or so, you should start to see some activity depending on when they're able to get all their subs in line. And
Thank you. Because I just want to raise that because I think the public is, we were passing this, but the public's going to start seeing some of the facilities be sort of torn up and fenced off sooner rather than later.
We'll
yeah,
be sure to
absolutely.
mention that at our regular meeting too, again, and do these public reminders.
That's a great point. And again, I think we mentioned before, but kudos to Public Works. We did take advantage of the previously warmer weather in January, and actually we're able to take care of some site work with our own crews, saving some money. Tree removals that were for trees that were already scheduled to be removed as part of the plans. If you drive by, you'll see the backstop for that Simmons Field, the 90-foot baseball diamond has been removed, and the benches and the irrigation, I think, heads and things were removed. So we did everything we could do, even pre-bid, actually, frankly, to save the town money, because as they did the site walks, the bidders saw they didn't have to do that work. So again, kudos to Gary and his team and everyone that worked together to get that. So you're starting to see the evidence that even though there's not a bulldozer, there's construction pending. It's not going to be used for a baseball field until we're done with this project.
Right. But that will also affect the Millings walking trail that we put out there. So that's going to be taken out of commission.
There's no scenario where that will be accessible during construction. That's definitely squarely in the middle of construction. Yeah.
Right.
Ms. Nichols.
I have a question probably for John. How are you going to manage the closing of some of those pieces, the softball fields or baseball fields in that area? How are you going to accommodate the teams? You have a plan with the groups that use those fields now to accommodate them when those fields are being disrupted?
Sure, Sylvia. We had I conducted some field meetings almost 3 weeks ago. So we talked about it, and this has already been in the planning phase going back to last year, between Sean's help and Gary's help of Public Works and Mark and Cunningham and Rich Pruitt. They turned over fields. They created a game field at Highland. There's been 2 fields that have always been there, but not in game condition. So that was turned over. Dodd Upper Softball Field was turned over. The Doolittle School Field got a really nice makeover last fall. So there's minimal work to do this spring, so that we can get right on there. And then we're also looking at doing some minimal work at Darcy, and a little bit of a lift at Chapman, only because the numbers in youth boys baseball and girls Cheshire Youth softball are exploding. And so having Darcy and Chapman be available, because they're a smaller type field, we could pull, the 5 to 8 year old group, the T-ball or rookie ball or single A and double A, pull them off of larger fields and maximize those for the older groups, and have those other 2 locations for the younger kids. So it's been talked about. I'm in the process of doing a master field schedule now. A draft copy should be out. If it's not the end of this week, early next week.
Good. I think it's exciting to see what's happening. I think we just need to keep the public very aware that we are accommodating and not ignoring the needs of the people who use the park currently. And I see that you're doing that very well.
Yeah, so your athletic groups are all on the same page. Everyone is kind of, working with each other. There was the Diamond Sports Field meeting, and then there was the rectangular multi-use field meeting. Not a lot of towns do that. I did it in Wallingford. I do it here. It fosters some really good relationships and communication. You have lacrosse that's going to be losing that Simmons Field, so they're going to double up at the Dodd lower field. And if it rains and they get periods of no use at Bartlett on the other fields, Cheshire Youth Soccer has already indicated that they'll take them over at Quinnipiac. So It's all been discussed. The plans are laid out. Hopefully things are good.
Great. Sounds
Right.
like good community work together. That's what we need.
Well, sounds like a wrap if I'm not mistaken. I don't see any other hands, John.
Yeah,
I
one
was
last thing-
mistaken.
One last thing, Tim, and and I know Jeff doesn't need this, but I did omit Jeff, and he was instrumental in getting us through this process. Not just what he did at the end, where he really did, excellent work on evaluating these contractors, but throughout the process, there were key questions that he answered. And I forgot to mention that, so I apologize, Jeff. I know you don't care that I mention it, but I think it's important. because you were instrumental.
Agreed. Jeff, great job.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Jeff's got another meeting to go to, I think.
Yes.
I could be wrong.
I'm here.
So,
Yes,
okay.
I'm sitting in the mayor's seat.
Ooh.
Excellent, excellent. You're all prepared. Excellent. Okay, well, I'm gonna ask for then a motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
Thank you, Sandy. We have a second, Mr. Bellinger. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, thanks.
Planning committee,
everybody.
stay on.
Planning
I
stays.
was just
Planning,
gonna say
stay
that.
on.
Yeah, don't. Jim and Sandy doesn't.
Okay.
You guys like me to stay?
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, you're always welcome on the committees.
Yeah.
Glad.
All right, Madam Chairman, what do you want us to do tonight?
Okay.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting of planning together. And at 6:30, and I would like to have a roll call, please, from Noel.
All right, Sandy Pavano,
Here,
David Borwick,
Present.
Jim Jinks.
okay, can we
Oh,
have,
yeah, here. All right, everybody's present.
thank you. Can we have a pledge of allegiance? Take
Pledge
one.
allegiance
To the
to the
flag.
flag of the United States of America,
To the
to the
republic.
republic for which it stands,
One
one
nation.
nation, under
Under
God,
God. Indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Thank you so much. Is Arnett coming back on, Noel?
Oh, yeah.
There
she's
you
here,
are.
she's here.
We're next to
Okay,
each other.
Arnett,
Yeah,
you
we're
can-
right next
We're
to
right here.
Good,
Um,
you can lead us into this.
Okay, our town planner, Mike Glidden is on, our Public Works Director, Gary Furstenberg is here. And the subject for tonight is the proposed sidewalk policy and application. And hopefully you've all had an opportunity to review the memo that we sent to the planning committee. Gary and Mike were instrumental in putting that together so that we could understand what the current sidewalk procedure is now, and perhaps make a recommendation as to how we can merge the request of the public safety and recommendation of the Public Safety Commission with the current process. Because we feel that the recommendation for a formal application that captures a certain amount of information, as Public Safety Commission suggested, is an excellent idea. Our suggestion would be to tweak the process a little bit.
Yeah.
And have the application go directly to Public Works. Our concern is that there will be elements of a sidewalk project that the Public Safety Commission naturally would not be aware of. And they may lead a resident to think that the town has approved a sidewalk when actually they're just recommending it to Public Works. So what we would do is the application would go to Public Works, and Public Works can then distribute the application to the Public Safety Commission for their comments on the safety issues, and also to planning to make sure that we meet all the planning requirements. And of course, it would come to Sean, and because it's going to have some budgetary impact, and eventually would go to the council in a capital project format. Any questions so far?
No, I just want to make a couple comments when you're ready. I
Okay,
just thought this information was really helpful, and I do also think that public safety came up with some good ideas
that's a
to the
great.
process, to make the process perhaps easier. And a timeline, I'd like to request, Mike, you're on, or whoever wants the public work. What is the normal timeline when you get an application for something like this?
A timeline for a response to the
Yeah.
resident, is that what you mean?
Yes,
Sandy?
correct. Yeah. For sidewalks.
I don't think I mean, this is a new process that we're talking about,
Right, so we're working on this.
but I mean,
Okay,
we have to
perfect.
process these things, I mean, a week or so, I would think, to essentially, get planning's input and back to the committee, I mean, within one meeting cycle, I think would be reasonable.
I think we're jumping in at the right time to make this process easier. Jim, you have
So,
anything?
yeah, just so I understand a little better, what you were saying, Arnett, the applicant, let's say, or the group that's requesting a sidewalk, the request, they'd be directed to submit whatever request they have to Public Works, and then Public Works distributes it to public safety, planning,
Right.
town manager. Is that what you said?
And
is
that
this-
process can be tweaked if you have some suggestions. And I do
Is-
want to add that the Public Safety Commission would also be able to apply for sidewalks on behalf if they chose to. They can fill out the application as well.
So
if
once
they're-
it goes to, once is Public Works going to make a, some sort of determination before they distribute it to the various groups, or are they just passing on the application to different departments?
I think we want to talk about that. I think if there's an obvious reason that the sidewalk cannot be built, then I think we have an obligation to notify the people requesting the sidewalk right away that it's not possible and why. So I think there may be different timeframes. If there's nothing that's immediately blatant about the sidewalk not being viable, then town staff would need to do a little bit of research on the elements that were in that memo. So they'll have to go out and actually check for clearing and grading, see how much size is there, check on driveway aprons, retaining walls, utilities. And then the town planner would also need to do some research in terms of what the any regulatory hurdles that there may be because of development documents and easements and that kind of thing. So that if there's no obvious elements that are going to prohibit it, that would be the next step to do this review. In terms of the Public Safety Committee, that's really the council's call. If you would like the Public Safety Committee to get it immediately and start their review and make a recommendation, that would be fine. If you feel it may be better to wait until it's a little bit more of a potential project and then go to public safety. I don't know, it might be better to get them in the beginning of the process, but at the same time, we don't want to give them undue work. So.
Sandy, if I may question.
Sure. Oh, please.
So much of this stuff about the sidewalks is supported by a very small budget in general. I mean, that to me is a big piece of this. And there's going to be a lot of people probably that are as concerned about the quality of their existing sidewalk as anybody who may want a new sidewalk.
Mhm.
So I think there has to be some preparation that actually, understands the budgetary elements in all of this. So that this isn't going to occur like, in a month planning, the Public Works Director is, passed it off as a blessing. He knows he has a budget. So I think we really, I'd almost feel like we need to have some kind of a grading of our sidewalks. I mean, like we do with paving, that sort of dictates what we do and can do. And I realize there's some expense borne with that type of thing. And maybe Gary would know if previous towns he's been in have even ventured to do that. But it seems to me, we fix aprons when there's paving projects and we do some occasional repairs, but whatever the budget is, it's not huge.
Right.
So is it feasible Gary, do you think to do a cursory analysis? Is it a consultant thing? I mean, to me, this should run hand in hand with this policy.
To answer your question, Tim, yes, there is software and consultants out there that do exactly what you're talking about, rating or grading, evaluating the existing sidewalk conditions. Just one thing I did in the past is I had a separate budget for sidewalk maintenance and another budget for sidewalk improvements. So improvements were what this committee might be dealing with, installing new sidewalks, versus maintenance was a complete separate budget. And I'm still learning, what we have, for funding for the sidewalks and different capital.
Well, I know it's not a real lot. I mean, it just isn't. And I'm not suggesting that because it isn't, it's going to get bigger, but I think we need to temper expectations with realities. And I would ask, really before even the council sees this, is that we've looked into what one of those surveys might cost us, while we could perhaps discuss this during our budget process. Just to get a fuller understanding of whether it's feasible, infeasible, a good idea, bad idea, not just because it was a suggestion by me. But if we could do it, what do you think,
I think
Sandy?
that's an excellent suggestion.
Well, I know it's going to be a piece of this puzzle because all of this stuff's expensive.
Right. Yeah.
And to your point, Tim, any type of application form or request form, I think needs to have a caveat on it that all decisions, whether how dearly these sidewalks may be wanted, that it does come down to a financial decision.
Right.
I think we need to address that right up front to set expectations.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I think and it's taken time, but I think the fact that we did embark on the roadway survey, it's got to be 12 years ago now, maybe longer, that's made the task of doing roads much easier and much more understood by the public at large. They see you have a program, they see this, they see that.
Right.
And then another thing, because I think Mike Glidden is on, we just got to get rid of these sidewalk waivers. Forget about it, Mike. You take that back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and tell them they're not allowed.
Well, actually, Tim, I didn't want to interrupt. When I was in Simsbury, they did a transition plan for their sidewalks, basically what you're looking at, and the price tag for that one was $25,000.
Okay.
That was townwide. They did it, and I could, you can access it on the Public Works website, and you can see the quality of that work.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So what town was that?
Simsbury, my former home.
Your former home. Okay. Well, they're always a step ahead of us, but we steal their best guys
Yeah.
and gals.
But like
Okay.
I said, the price tag on that was $25,000.
Okay. That's probably what we spent on the pavement survey. And I think we've revamped that one time since. Okay.
Can we just go back to, before Tim made that excellent suggestion about the survey, go back to what you were saying, Arnett, about the sequence. I think that we want to give the commission an opportunity to kind of score the project perhaps before Public Works and Planning goes through the time and expense of determining whether or not a project should go forward, right? Because it may be that the scoring is intended to determine kind of whether or not it does a few things, whether or not it connects the neighborhood to a school or a park, whether or not it's on a street where a sidewalk makes sense. It's whether or not the neighbors agree to have a sidewalk, the number of homes it'll service. The scoring, the kind of the intention of it was to sort of determine whether or not the project should go forward to begin with. So I wonder if we want to think about the sequence you're proposing. If it's, you know, I don't want Public Works to kind of go through the labor, the legwork of kind of all the engineering process that it sounds like they would have to undertake before we even kind of have a sense of whether or not it should go forward at all.
So Jim, to your point, they could send a request to Public Works, who would send it as a referral to Public Safety. And then they would score it and it may go back or it may not. Is that what that's sort of the sequencing?
Yeah,
I mean, I
so.
think
I'm
it
not-
makes sense to go to Public Works as long as the policy is explained.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's referred by them before they spend a whole lot of time. Because they may look at it though at first and say, well, this was waived, so it can't be done or something, blah, 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 you know?
One of the
Okay.
concerns, and we're happy to do whatever the council prefers. One of the concerns is that the Public Safety Commission, it would, how do we say this? It would need to be made clear to anybody who applied to the Public Safety Commission as they rated the project. If the commission says, well, we're rating this project pretty high, we think it's great, and the neighborhood is wonderful, we're gonna get sidewalks, and then it goes to Public Works, and they say, well, there's just,
Right.
we can't dig there, it's all rock, or planning says, well, if we do that, then we have to change the requirements for a development. Then we've given people an idea
Right.
that we make, so that's a concern that we need to let people know, that just because it scores high by the Public Safety Commission, there may be other factors that would unfortunately kill the deal. That would be my only caveat,
Mhm.
our only caveat.
Makes sense.
David?
Yeah, one comment, I go even a step further in one of my
And
comments
the
that I was gonna make.
commission,
Oh. Sorry. I was gonna say that I
Yeah.
would go even a step
Yeah,
further
that-
and say,
I think
Jim, are you trying to make a comment? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you.
I don't know if you can hear me. I was speaking a while ago, but I think it
I'm
was
sorry,
kind
we
of
couldn't hear
later
you.
or something. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah, now we
That's
can.
okay.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead, David, then I'll follow up.
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to I didn't hear you. I'm concerned that there's an expectation that there's a budget to do this, when I've been back on the council for 4 years and we've only done 2 streets. We've been designing Cheshire Road and we've done Jarvis, and that's it in 4 years. And so if we are going to want to set a policy like this, there's going to be some realistic expectations that there's going to be some money behind it in the capital budget, that we're going to want to be doing it. Now, maybe not $500,000 a year, that's a lot of money, but there's got to be something of significance to be able to do some portions of sidewalk. And I'd hate to see the public safety committee, how are they going to rate any of them low? I mean, come on, sidewalks are great. There's really hardly anywhere where they're not good and not a positive. It's just really a matter of money is what's holding us up, or the fact that in some cases, some of the neighbors won't want them added to their property. So I really think we're almost setting up a disappointment of expectations if we're setting a policy without realistically telling those that may apply, and also telling those that are going to review on public safety that, we don't have a lot of money here. And I'd almost rather see us adopt a capital budget that might include some money in it and then do this.
Oh, that's a good point.
Oh, sorry, Tim, you were on mute.
Jim was speaking, wasn't
Jim
he?
was
Okay.
speaking.
He looks frozen. I had been frozen before too, and I had to go out and back in.
Yeah, Jim, we can't hear you.
Yeah, he's
I do
frozen.
want, you guys,
No, it's frozen.
Oh, no, I think David is too.
Well, since they're all frozen,
Yeah, you can speak.
I'll
Wow.
thaw things out.
Wow.
To David's point, which I think I was attempting to make as well. That's why I had suggested if we did some surveying first, and that could become the first part of our conversation, sort of set the table. And then in our capital budget process, discuss, even though the survey wouldn't be done, what we may want to do. That allows us to put the cart, out there before we send anyone out to do the task of, taking invitations. So I'm not suggesting that this, in my estimation, that this go to the council
God damn it.
as a recommendation. I think what we need to do is discuss this in the budget process.
I'm fine with that.
Because David, I was concurrent with what you were saying.
Okay.
And think, because the budget impacts, could be tremendous, and we can't be filling out questionnaires
Right.
before we know what kind of budget
Yeah.
there is.
But to that point, don't you think that you're more looking at an analysis of what we have and an assessment of what we have? Whereas this sort of, to me, was a vehicle by which people could request additional sidewalks expansion.
Well, I think, but here's the point that I think is very important. I think there's probably as many and more people that are concerned about the quality of their sidewalks as much as they are about new ones. So
Right.
yeah, you want to start asking questions about new ones and they become a capital project unto themselves. That's one thing. But if we want to address just the quality of what we have, and I think that is important, so that becomes a vehicle for saying yes or no, we're going to do this, or this is when we're going to do it. Even though they are two separate issues, they're all part of the same front lawn.
Understood.
Jim,
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you keep freezing on us, sorry.
Yeah, I think I just had a bad connection here in my office, but I caught some of what you guys discussed. I think that, what this will do or should do is at least identify, it could identify places where we need sidewalks, where people want sidewalks. If we have enough people in the community that are coming out and saying, this is where I want a sidewalk, then this gives us a jumping off point to plan for that sidewalk. Now, it may be, obviously, it may not be happening in the first year or second year of a capital budget, but at least it's in the queue, a few years ago, my first year on the council, I asked about setting aside some road paving budgets to fund sidewalks. And at the time I was told, well, we don't have any sidewalks in the queue to fund. So what would we be setting money aside for? So this is at least, I think, setting us up for the potential to not only, eventually have some sidewalks in areas where we need them, but also to identify where those may be.
Okay.
What we were talking about with Arnett earlier before I froze up, there, not only does the Public Safety Commission need to, or not only does it need to be clear that there are going to be engineering hurdles and planning hurdles to sidewalks, but there's also going to be budget hurdles like we've been talking about. So just because the Public Safety Commission scores a project well, they understand, and we had that discussion in the Public Safety Commission, work up to this point, had that discussion about it doesn't mean that they're going to be granting anything other than, allowing a way for the community to, kind of interface with the town on a requested sidewalk and have kind of an initial review of that. But everyone's going to understand that there are many steps that need to follow that process.
Okay. What's the consensus of the planning committee then? Do you want to go ahead and do this application, or do you want to wait and put it in the capital budget before we do the application?
I'd like to get the assessment done that Tim talked about. I think that's helpful for existing conditions. And if we find out we got to spend $500,000 a year for 10 years just to bring up what we have to standard, then that's a different conversation than if we find we don't need as much, and therefore maybe some funds will be available for expansions.
I'm fine with that. You're mute, Tim.
I think this could be a very important part of our conversation during budget process.
Yeah, me too.
Bring up the fact, that we're working off of public safety's comments. Jim's liaison certainly can share our progress with them. You can even do so, that we're making progress to the extent possible, and, because we're not holding things up by readjusting the path forward. We're just trying to get it right.
Right.
And we're on top of budget, so we'll be talking about it before you know it.
Right, okay.
So we want to keep this, Annette, what do you think? We should go ahead with this or not?
We can certainly put this on the budget committee.
I think that's appropriate.
Let's see, well, we have, it can either go, and actually, we could talk about it in two separate occasions. The police will be on March 28th. We could talk about it at that budget workshop. Because the Public Safety Commission falls under the police. And then the following meeting on the 30th is Public Works, Public Property. So those two meetings, I think, would make a really good occasion to further this discussion.
Agree.
And if the council's willing to put some money, to spend money for a survey, then, then we know the kind of dollars that we're working with and can really manage expectations and still, of course, use the Public Safety Commission to help with the process.
And of course, where David wears two different hats, he could probably suggest where he thinks it
Right.
may best be fit conversation, because it doesn't mean planning's work stops. It's just a case of maybe let the budget chair determine where it should fall and the best case made for this.
I agree.
Yeah, we'll definitely have the discussion and make sure we set aside some funds, but we need to know what to set aside.
Right.
Jim, are you okay with discussing this in our budget process?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so I guess that's the consensus of the committee at this point. Do we need a motion or not, or just a consensus? Consensus, okay.
Jim and I heard you. We're 2/3 of the budget
I
committee.
know you are, so yeah, I know. We got the right people. All right, does anyone have anything else they want to add?
No,
Well,
Thank you for having me.
Your input was wonderful, Tim. Thank you for being with us and
Yeah,
being,
that's very good.
adding what you did. I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
So moved. Thank you and good night, everyone.
All right.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
Sandy.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.